Now, here he is, Tom Leykis.
Thank you for tuning in to the Tom Leykis Show. This is where America gets together to talk about the issues you really care about. It's a different kind of a radio talk program. We're the radio talk show that is not hosted by a right-wing wacko or a convicted felon. No. I am your host. Write down our toll-free telephone number. You're going to need it. It's 1-800-5800-TOM. 1-800-5800-866. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for being part of our program. Here we are together again on the radio. I received an email with an attachment from a listener named Mike Menadeo. Mike writes and it says about this article. He says, Tom, it's interesting that the New York Times focuses in this article on the education level of men not marrying. As if to say that men not marrying is primarily a choice made by dumb men. He says this article must have been written by some disgruntled bitch. And as I've told you on the program recently, you know, for years, if you've never lived in New York, never seen a copy of the New York Times for years, the New York Times has had this snooty attitude. They would never soil their paper with things that don't belong in it. Their slogan on the front page says, all the news that's fit to print. As if the kind of things that people like us talk about is not fit to print. How fascinating, as the circulation of big newspapers has gone down, that the New York Times has started writing about things we do talk about. Suddenly, the things we talk about apparently are fit to print. Clearly, newspapers like the New York Times are afraid that shows like ours are more relevant to the consumer than the stuff they considered fit to print in the New York Times for 150 years. So here's the story that Mike sent to me from the New York Times. It's called The New Gender Divide, Facing Middle Age with No Degree and No Wife. Like there's something wrong with that. The story goes like this. Once, virtually all Americans had married by their mid-40s. Now, many American men without college degrees find themselves still single as they approach middle age. You say that like it's a bad thing. About 18% of men ages 40 to 44 with less than 4 years of college have never married, according to census estimates. That is up from about 6% a quarter century ago. Among similar men ages 35 to 39, the portion jumped to 22% from 8% in that time. At virtually every level of education, fewer Americans are marrying. But the decline is most pronounced among men with less education. Even marriage rates among female professionals over 40 have stabilized in recent years. The New York Times claims in this article that the decline in marriage can be traced to many factors, experts say, including the greater economic independence of women and the greater acceptance of couples living together outside of marriage. May I just put something in here? Is it possible the decline in marriage among guys without college degrees is due to the fact that the divorce laws are so unfair to men that men who do not have a college degree or who are not professionals realize they cannot afford to get married because they can't afford to lose what they've earned. They can't afford to give away what they have. Isn't it possible? It isn't that men are pathetic because they don't have degrees. Isn't it possible that men those ages are not getting married because they know how much a divorce would cost? Isn't it possible these men have taken control of their lives? Isn't it possible that these men have realized they're better off living alone? No, the New York Times wants you to believe that these guys don't have an education, and now women who are so much more superior to men are deciding not to get married to these guys without education. That's what the New York Times will have you believe. I believe guys like these, and I know a lot of guys at those age ranges, and I know a lot of guys like the ones they're talking about. Keep in mind, I dropped out of college because I went broke. I do not have a college degree, so I'm familiar with this turf. And I'm telling you, I came to the conclusion on my own that I want to be alone. I want to be unmarried. I want to live alone. I want to be alone. Do I want to date? Do I want to have sex? Yes. And I do. But do I want some woman living in my house, having a key to my place, dipping into my bank account? Do I want to get married to somebody who later might take half or more of everything I've ever earned? No. And that doesn't make me pathetic. That makes me smart. And the same thing is true about these guys who aren't getting married. Why assume they're pathetic? By the way, the article is accompanied by a photograph of somebody named Tom Ryan of Denver. And there he is sitting alone in his apartment playing the guitar. He has a coat rack with a bunch of hats he's collected all hanging on the coat rack. Looks like about 20 hats hanging up there. I guess it says it was commemorative baseball caps. A hat rack with dozens of commemorative baseball caps. Now, even though the article makes men sound pathetic who are not married in middle age, the caption on the picture says the following. It's the complete opposite of the article. It says, Tom Ryan used to share a home outside Denver with a girlfriend, but now lives alone, enjoying the ability to keep the house as he pleases. That includes a hat rack covered with dozens of commemorative baseball caps. So the guy in the picture, he looks forlorn, looks like he's alone, but the reality is, if you read the caption, he's happy now because he doesn't have to answer to some bitch. And that's how I feel. Amazing. So it says here, for men without higher education, dwindling prospects in the labor market have made a growing percentage either unwilling to marry, bingo, or unable to find someone to marry them. Why are they looking? Relax, boys. Doug Thomas, 45, a computer technician with 1 year of college, has spent more of his adult life securing his financial footing than he has searching for a wife. Mr. Thomas of Fort Collins, Colorado said, I make enough where sure I could get married, and sure the girl would not have to work. But it says here he worries what that would mean for the relationship and whether he and his wife would have time together. He said, well, now you're locked into working all these hours. Jeff Enos, 40, a high school graduate and construction foreman in Kenosha, Wisconsin, said he dated several women at a time when he was younger. But having lived through his parents' divorce, he wants to avoid a similar fate. That is one reason he had cautioned his girlfriend, with whom he lives, not to pressure him about marriage. There's another guy who doesn't sound pathetic. Here's a guy, he's 40, he has a girlfriend, he says, do not pressure me about marriage. That doesn't sound like a guy who can't find somebody because he doesn't have a degree or because he doesn't have an education. Even though he's a high school graduate, no college, he's a construction foreman, he has a girlfriend. I mean, the article proceeds to deconstruct its own argument. It says here, perhaps most significant, many men without college degrees are not marrying because the pool of women in their social circles, those without college degrees, has shrunk. And the dwindling pool of women in this category often look for a mate with more education and hence better financial prospects. Shania Rudolph, 42, a divorced mother from the Bronx, said, men don't marry because women like myself don't need to rely on them. Well, that's a very interesting opinion there, Shania. Maybe men like me don't marry because we don't need you. Did the New York Times consider that possibility? It says here, in 1980, only 6% of men in their early 40s at all levels of education and 5% of women in their early 40s had never married. By 2004, this portion had increased to 16.5% of men and about 12.5% of women. It says here, of the men remaining single, the greatest number are high school dropouts, especially blacks and unemployed men. But marriage is also declining among white men and men with jobs who lack college degrees. It says here, there is no conclusive evidence that marriage helps men. How many times have I told you about this? No conclusive evidence that marriage helps men. Still, it says here in the New York Times, some social scientists worry that not marrying may further marginalize men who are already struggling. Christopher Jenks, a professor of sociology at Harvard, said, it is a mistake to think of this as just happening to the underclass at the bottom. It is also happening to people with high school diplomas or even some college. That is the group that has been most affected by the decline in real wages in the last 30 years. The course of Mr. Thomas's life has been determined as much by his finances as by circumstance or his own character. He's a tall, athletic man with cropped George Clooney-style hair who projects a kind and upbeat persona. Surely a catch to some women in Fort Collins, Colorado. Yet Mr. Thomas, who was laid off from Lockheed Martin as the electronics industry shifted jobs overseas, has experienced so much job insecurity that for most of his adult life, a stable economic foundation has eluded him. It is only now, working for Hewlett-Packard, that he has been able to pay off debts and build a nest egg. The job, however, which pays about $56,000 a year, could end next year, leaving Mr. Thomas, who would like to begin a lower-paying career as a graphic designer, feeling a greater urgency to save. Look, I can read you the whole article. Why? Why bother? Point is this. This article makes for some very interesting speculation here. For one, is what I said. It assumes that men are desperate or men are pathetic if they do not have college degrees, they can't get married, and there's something pathetic about that. By the same token, if what they say is 100% true, what it says is women who love to talk about being in it for the love are really in it for the money, because if it were all about love, these guys wouldn't have a hard time finding a wife, would they? If women refuse to marry guys who don't have college degrees or don't make good money, what does that tell you? It tells you that women get married as an economic thing. Right? I mean, I tell you all the time, marriage is a contract. It's the formation of a corporation. It's the formation of a business. And people love to talk about how it's all about love. But if what the New York Times says is true, that if a man doesn't have a college degree or doesn't make good money, he can't get married, can't find a woman to marry him, that tells you that women get married for the money. At every economic level, they get married for the money. People who are lower income brackets, middle income brackets, higher income brackets, women know that marriage is a business. They'll tell you marriage is for love and romance and commitment. But in reality, it is a contract that they are signing to get an economic benefit. And if a man does not offer that economic benefit, the New York Times says these guys can't find wives. Am I wrong?
Tom.
Really?
Tom Leykis. 1-800-5800-TOM.
I wish I had you years ago. You would have saved me a lot of grief.
That's what many women say. The Tom Leykis Show.
It's the Tom Leykis Show at 1-800-5800-TOM. That's our telephone number. Alan on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hey, Tom.
Hey.
Hey, listen, I read the same article last Sunday, and I really agree with you, what you're saying. One footnote I wanted to bring out is, if you go back to the last paragraph, it kind of says it all, where it says, they all look younger than their age, and they all seem to be happy.
And notice they bury that in the last paragraph.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, most newspaper articles, people read the first page and they don't go to the jump pages. Isn't it interesting how they bury that information?
But that's the whole key to the article, that last paragraph.
How about the guy whose girlfriend had been with him for 6 years, wanted to get married and have a child? But the guy had attended music college for a year and spent his 20s singing in a band. He was not ready. So that was it.
Yeah, it's sure a cautionary tale.
Says here, listen to this, talking about the same guy. His name was Ryan. Mr. Ryan, that New York Times style never changes, who grew up without a father, learned how to be alone. A new girlfriend came along, but he was unwilling to let her move in as much as a toothbrush. They broke up. I don't let them move in a toothbrush either.
You know, there's almost two articles going on there. One, what they were trying to say, and what they're really saying.
Exactly.
Anyway, thanks a lot, Tom.
Thank you, Alan, for the call. 1-800-5800-TOM is our telephone number. Kathy on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hey, Tom. I love your show, and I've got a lot of single girlfriends, and I'm married, but I was wanting to comment regarding your talking about women that only want men with college educations because of money. But I think that really it's not only that. I think there's a lot of women that would like a man with a college education so that they can have something to contribute from an intellectual perspective.
I don't buy that for 1 minute.
You don't?
No, because first of all, I find many women are not that intellectual to begin with.
Well,
the vast majority of, look, let's face it, entertainment tonight.
Generalities a lot, and I
yes,
that.
Yes, because we are broadcasting.
Right, and I know that you talk about generalities, but I think there are women out there that do want a man with a college education.
Well, there might be some, but the vast majority of them want a guy with a college education because he has the potential to make money. And even this article says that.
Well, that could very well be, but I make great money, but I'd like a husband that makes money too.
Well, that's wonderful that you might be an exception to the rule, but I don't think that's what women are looking for.
Well, that's my opinion.
You might be the exception to the rule.
You're talking about generalities, and I always think about that when you're talking, but I don't think that in every single case, in a generality, you can.
Did I use the phrase "in every single case"?
No, I know,
but you always
all generalities.
No, but again, so what if there are exceptions to the rule like you? Big deal.
Scenarios like that.
I said, so what if there are exceptions to the rule? Big deal.
Okay.
Big deal. The exception proves the rule, as you know.
You're right. I mean, there are a lot of women out there that are money stalkers. I know that. And,
that's right.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
And why would we assume these guys are pathetic because they're not married?
I'd say that again?
Why would we assume these guys are pathetic because they're not married?
No, because they're probably smart.
That's what I always say. They're smart. Of course they're smart.
Well, I'm in a happy marriage, but, I think that's far and few between, and I don't think that there's a lot of people that have happy marriages, but I wish for women out there that they could try and get a little bit more independent and that they could have relationships with men and be able to be married and not have to control everything that the man does. Maybe then people wouldn't feel the way that you do.
Well, it's not just that. It's the divorce cases we read about. It's the child custody awards, the child support awards, the vagina money awards.
And they get divorced because most women want to control the man.
That's right.
Right.
And yes, by the way, I relate to that guy who wanted to keep his house the way he wants to keep it.
Yeah.
Wants to have his collection of baseball hats or wants to play his guitar in the living room.
Yeah. Why shouldn't he?
Well, because women will always try to find some way to, and I'm not saying all, of course, but I have to say that, or otherwise people are going to start giving you a hard time. But generally speaking, if a man finds joy in doing something simple like playing the guitar or watching a football game, a woman will find a way to ruin it.
You're right. I agree. I can't not agree with you. I really enjoy
I can't tell you, and I say this over and over because every day I wake up and I realize it every day all over again. I can't tell you how happy I am every day when I wake up alone. And when I go to sit in my kitchen, have a cup of coffee, and read the paper, and do things at my leisure, and not have demands being put on me, not being nagged. It is spectacular.
I'm sure it is.
It is wonderful. I can't tell you how happy I am.
But, you know, Tom, I have a lot of girlfriends out there that live in the Phoenix area and around the country and that are single. And, you know, I feel for them because they want to have a relationship with somebody that will just care for them. Everybody searches for, you know, somebody to love them in whichever way it might be, if it's that you're living with them or not. But it's so hard for them to find people that are compatible or that's trustworthy that they can even have a regular, normal relationship, not even just living together or married.
Well, that's true. But the thing is, the problem is, not all women, but most women, if they date you, even sometimes as little as once, they start looking around like they want to start nesting. And the closer they are to 35 or 40 years old, the more likely it is that they're going to start saying, you know, my lease is coming up, and, you know, like that.
Well, I don't seem to think that the women that I'm friends with that want to nest. I think what they want is somebody that they can rely on to be their partner, not necessarily move in with them, but they're independently financially stable on their own. They don't need that. They've done that for very many years, but I think they want somebody that they can share the relationship with, not control, but just have a good time, go out, have great sex, get involved with the family a little bit once in a while, and just have a good time. It doesn't necessarily have to be that committed.
Well, I think that would be wonderful. Not a lot of women would be happy with that idea.
Tom Leykis. 1-800-5800-TOM. 1-800-5800-866.
I was dating a guy for 3 months, and we never even did anything but have sex. That was considered like a boyfriend and girlfriend kind of a thing.
I wouldn't consider it a boyfriend-girlfriend kind of thing.
What would you call it?
Booty call. The Tom Leykis Show.
The Tom Leykis Show at 1-800-5800-TOM. Talking about an article that I read from the New York Times. Talking about those pathetic males who can't find women to marry them because they don't have degrees, because they don't make enough money. But wait a minute, don't women say it's all about love? Well, they say that, but the numbers tell a different story. Kate on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hi, Tom. I'm a first-time caller.
Well, I'm glad you called in.
I want to say that I agree with the last caller, Kathy, that there are exceptions, and I'm one of those.
Yeah, but it doesn't really... But the fact that there are exceptions is really irrelevant, isn't it?
Okay, well, then let me put it this way. The statement that those guys supposedly are pathetic, they're not pathetic. And I just want to encourage all the guys out there who feel like stupid because they don't have a degree or maybe they're not getting some gold digger wife. Well, don't settle for those kind of women.
Don't settle for any woman. You know what? Have sex, have a good time, and when they start to put the collar on you, it's time to go.
It's not pathetic to be single. I mean, I'm happily married, but I waited for the right guy, and...
It's not only not pathetic, it is spectacular being unmarried. It's absolutely wonderful.
Exactly. Why get tied up, and then people so often, I think, lose their hopes and their dreams because they hook up with someone that has a really different vision for their life, and then they have babies with them, and then they're into a big commitment, and they lose their personal vision, and I think that's stupid. Guys shouldn't settle for that. Neither should women.
I agree with you, Kate. Thank you for that. 1-800-5800-TOM is our telephone number. Annie on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Annie.
First time, long time.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that I completely agree with you as a young woman who has almost finish college, I am looking for someone who is going to be at least or more educated than I am so that I don't have to marry down. I'm looking for someone that's going to be making as much or hopefully more than I am.
Well, isn't it all about love, dear?
No.
No, it's a business deal, isn't it?
Exactly.
Boys, I want you to hear what Addie is saying here, because she'll never tell this to your face, but she's telling us the real truth. Women know this. Getting married is a business deal for women. That's what it is.
Exactly, Tom. You are right on the nose.
Yeah, and so if you guys were business-oriented, you wouldn't get married, especially if you had money to lose.
That is true. I'm not even a business major, and I can tell you that.
Love that. Well, thank you for being honest.
Yes.
Appreciate the call, I do. Cameron on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hey, Tom?
Yes.
What up, dude? It's John.
Well, it says Cameron on the screen. Did you change names?
I took the phone from him, actually.
Oh, okay. John.
Yeah, the main reason I think actually women, why they get married, is just because they like not working and being lazy.
And they love collecting from you even after you're gone.
Yeah, and they love not having to work to get things.
Yes.
And they love keeping guys on a leash.
That's right.
But, yeah, man, that's all I wanted to say. Take me out with a fat bong rip.
Here it comes. Richard on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
What's going on? I've got a question. Who did they poll? Did they find some geeks in a small condo? Because what guy wakes up and says, I want to get married today?
Well, we talked to plenty of them. They're pathetic, and they need to be re-educated. But there's a lot of them, Richard.
I'm 23 years old, and I see my buddies getting married, and it's a living hell. They don't go to the bar anymore. They don't shoot pool. They don't play poker. Why would you want to do that? It's like that guy that plays guitar in his living room, and his wife doesn't want him to do it. It's like, why are you going to wake up and say, that's what I want?
Again, I do believe there are people out there who grew up with married parents, and they want to repeat what they saw as happiness, or they grew up with a divorce, and they want to fix their past and do it differently this time.
What about the mentality of, yeah, my parents were divorced, why would I want to even go through it?
Well, there are people, by the way, you can't say that word on the air, but there are people like that.
It slays me.
There are people like that. Keep in mind that men are getting married at the latest age ever. The last average I saw, the last median age for a man's first marriage in the United States is 28 now. So I think my message is getting through. I tell guys not to get married till at least 25. The median age for the first marriage now is 28. They're blaming it on divorce.
I don't know. I can't see waking up one day and saying, hey, I want to get married.
Believe me. I tell you what, if you don't believe that, go right now when you get home to Match.com and look for men seeking women and read what they have to write. You want to get an education? You go do that.
I think I'm going to.
I'm telling you, and you will have the answer to your question.
Okay.
All right?
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Richard. It's Natasha on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, I had a comment about how you presented women on your show.
How I presented women?
Yeah.
How did I present them? On a silver platter?
Well, I'm 17 years old, and I'm planning on going to college when I'm older.
Yes.
And as someone who's aspiring to be educated, I do want someone who's intellectual as well, and who's going to have something to say about the world.
Why does it matter? Don't you want to have somebody who loves you, cares about you? No.
Part of love.
You want someone with a degree who can support you.
I think it's a two-way street. There's support and structure, but then there's also your shared ideals and your morals and your education.
That has nothing to do with anything. It's supposed to be about love, dear. That's what women love to tell men. It's about love.
Oh, it's not. I think that's a stereotype.
It's not just a stereotype. It's a lie that women tell men. A lie.
I think that a lot of women, especially nowadays, aren't saying that anymore because...
Oh, they're saying it. They're just lying.
Part of it. I mean, part of love is having something to talk about, at least for myself. It's not just sleeping together or, just the money. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to have someone to talk to.
Yeah, but most women do not engage in intellectual conversation with their men anyway.
Well, I think I disagree with that.
Yeah, dear, you're only 17. And you haven't, and you're not dating women, so you don't know. Trust me when I tell you that although I have been with women who generally have above average intelligence, I can tell you that only one of them really wanted to talk about anything intellectual.
Really?
Yep.
I don't know. I think maybe I'm not part of the majority here, but
well, you're not an adult, and you have no experience, and you've never dated women.
I'm sorry I'm not homosexual, but I know what I want. I've dated.
That doesn't mean that you know what most women are like.
Well, I have girlfriends. I mean,
We tend to make friends who are like us, dear. There's 175 million women in America, and your 6 friends do not prove anything.
Oh, I know. Maybe
they prove that you make friends who you think are like yourself.
I agree with that.
That's all it proves.
I think that a lot of American women are uneducated these days, and so...
What do you mean a lot of American women are uneducated these days?
Well, they spend
when
more
were they
time.
educated?
Excuse me?
When were they educated?
In high school, but then they...
No, you say these days, as opposed to what days?
In these times.
You mean, so compared as to when my mother went to high school and then women didn't go to college? They were more educated back then.
No, I mean, in accordance to the world, like they spend more time watching entertainment tonight than...
Women have always been like that, dear. Wake up.
I don't think they have. Yeah. I think that...
Oh, yeah, they have. Yeah, they have. I mean, why do you think these shows exist? And before that, all the gossip magazines that existed. Who do you think reads that stuff? It's women.
Because the media likes to target what people want.
That bingo, and that's what women want.
I don't want that.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about women in general.
You can't stereotype.
Yes, you can. It's generally true. Even if you're an exception to the rule, it doesn't mean something isn't generally true. You need a little lesson in logic there. Something can be generally true, even if it isn't true for you.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Generally, women in the United States are not named Natasha.
They aren't.
Generally, they aren't.
They aren't.
Now, even though you are, isn't what I'm saying true? They generally aren't?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So what I'm saying is generally true about women. They generally have no interest in having an intellectual conversation with the men they're with. Even if you do, the women generally don't. Same logic.
But how do you know all these things? Do you perform?
Oh, because I've dated 1,000 women or more.
You haven't dated everyone in America.
I don't have to date everyone in America, dear. When they take the Nielsen ratings on TV to decide which TV shows are the top shows, they don't survey everyone in America. They take a sample. I've had a sample.
There's still many exceptions.
I don't care how many exceptions there are. These statements are generally true. And as a woman, I know you're impervious to logic, but that's what makes you female. There's something about having a vagina that ruins your ability to reason. It's the Tom Leykis Show at 1-800-5800-TOM. Kim on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hello, Tom.
Hello, Kim.
God, I love it when you piss me off on my drive in the afternoon.
That's my gig.
But you know what? You're hitting the nail on the head with me. I'm telling you, 38 years old. I was married for 15 years. I've got a teenage daughter. Since I own a house in Lake Arrowhead, I have a house in Havasu. I've got a boat. I've got toys. I live a great life. The thought of marriage right now just makes me cringe. I have a boyfriend who lives in a Hollywood apartment, and I've had to tell him that he doesn't bring enough to the table.
So you concede that getting married is a business arrangement?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I was married for 15 years.
I hope the boys out there are hearing what I'm saying.
Oh, and this is no secret to him. He completely knows. He is a fabulous, nice Midwest boy. He wants to be married.
With a 14-inch personality.
Yeah, very much so.
That's why you're dating a guy in a Hollywood apartment, dear.
Oh, yeah, no, don't get me wrong. The sex is fabulous.
Of course.
Fabulous.
Of course.
And I told him, you know what, this is my agenda. My agenda is I've been married. My agenda is I've procreated, thought it looks like it's fabulous. I have a great daughter. The thought of having more, not so much, I don't want that anymore. My life is designed now for me and my daughter, and I have to come right out and let him know that marriage is not absolutely in the stars for us. But if he wants to still hang around and continue to have great sex, I'm all on board for that.
There you go. My guess is probably on board with that. Why would anybody turn that down? Our email address is my name. It's tom@blowmeuptom.com.
The Tom Leykis Show.